Alright everybody, in this video I want to share with you guys how to create those emotional electric guitar beats all from scratch in FL Studio. I will take you guys through everything from the melody to the drums in a step-by-step process. This is pretty much just to teach you guys everything you need to know to create that sad and emotional melody and then complement that same exact melody with some simple but bouncy drums. So let us not waste any more time, let's just jump straight in. Alright, so we are now here in FL Studio 21. First things first, we need to obviously pick a BPM for the beat. Now usually I actually go a bit lower than 140, but in this case we're actually gonna go something like 165. So something in between 160 and 180 is pretty much gonna be perfect for this vibe we're going for today. Now the electric guitar we're gonna be using is gonna be this TC guitar from Ilya Efimov. I know that a lot of you watching have this same exact guitar, so this is the reason why we're gonna be using this one. So most of you should be able to follow along with the same type of instruments as well. Now once we open up the piano roll, we obviously want to pick a scale. In this case we're working in the minor scale, but I think we're gonna actually go with E minor. So now that we have almost everything in place, it's time to actually start making the pattern. So since we are working in the E minor scale, let's start off with a simple E4 note down here. And then we're actually going to extend this out until we have it on the 2 bars right here. We're going to have one chord for the 2 bars, and then we're going to have one chord each for the next 2 bars going after that. Now on the first chord, we're just going to make a simple E minor chord, so skip the first highlighted note, and then we're going to put one note above that one. Again, skip the first highlighted one and put one note above this one. That is literally going to be our first chord, but the 2 next chords are going to be a little bit different. So starting from the 3rd bar over here, we want to have the next root note 2 semitones down from the first one, so 1, 2 down to the D4 right there. And then this time, instead of making the same chord like we did on the first bar, we are actually going to do something the opposite way. So instead of skipping the first highlighted note over here and then putting one note over here, we're actually going to skip the first highlighted note going downwards and then putting one note below that one. This B3 is obviously a bit lower, so we're just going to pitch it up by 1 octave, and then we can kind of do the same thing, skip the next highlighted note and put one above that. For this chord, we're actually going to shorten it and then again go 2 semitones below the root note. This time we're just going to make a simple triad yet again, so skip this one, put one note there, skip this note and put one note there. But again, just to switch it up a little bit, we're actually going to invert this middle note by pitching it up 1 octave. Now before I play the chord progression, we are using a guitar, so I feel like we actually need to strum out the notes a little bit. So let us just highlight some of the notes and move them a little bit to the side. So this is pretty much going to be our chord progression. As you guys can see, you can actually get a super emotional and clean sound from your guitar, literally by just using some simple 3-note chords. Now just to add a little bit more movement to this whole pattern, we are just going to add a few filler notes here and there. This you kind of have to play around with, but I'll try to explain it as well as possible. So the first thing I like doing when I'm adding these filler notes is to make sure that the velocity of the note is super low. This is because we want the notes to act more as an accent and we don't want them to be super present. So having the velocity very low down is going to make it play softer. I am also going to hold Alt on my keyboard and move the notes slightly off grid just to get a more realistic sound out of the guitar. Yeah, so now we're starting to get a super nice and clean sound. The pattern is pretty emotional as well, we just need to add some effects to the guitar. Alright, the first effect we're going to add to the guitar is just going to be this CLA guitar over here. The preset that we're going to be using is actually going to be this acoustic shrunken preset, as it gives it a whole brighter sound. Then we are also going to add a little bit of reverb just to give the whole guitar a little bit more ambience. I am also just adding a little bit of delay using Effect Track. Also a little bit of RC20 for more of that vintage sound. And lastly, we're just going to add a EQ to cut out some of the harsh frequencies. Alright, that is pretty much it for the essential effects, but if you still feel like you aren't really getting that super emotional sound out of your guitar, I actually have a super fire trick for you guys. So we are also going to open up Guitar Rig 6, and then we're going to be using this Older Days preset. The only thing you have to make sure when you're using this preset though is make sure to turn off the first 2 effects. So usually they are on like this, you just want to make sure to turn both of them off, and then you can also turn up the gain a little bit over here. Take a listen to how the guitar sounds now. Yeah, so now we really have that ambient guitar sound with the emotional pattern as well. Alright, next we're going to add a bass pattern to fill out the low end of our sample. You can pretty much use whatever bass you want to. In this case, we're just using the Scarby bass right here. And we are very simply just going to follow the root notes of our main electric guitar. Just simply fills out the low end. Has a groove to it as well. Let's go in and add some vocals from Arcade. Alright, so I did find this vocal right here.
I will always be there for you, for you.
Alright, so I feel like the vocal actually fits the sample very well, but you can maybe hear that the vocal is very fast. So I'll show you guys a super nice trick to actually fix this. So what we're actually going to do is just route the vocal to a mixer track. In this case, I have it on a third insert, and I'm just going to press this record button down here. Once you have this, you can just hit Alt and R on your keyboard to render out the vocal as audio file. Now that we have the vocal in a waveform like this, we're just going to delete this second part. Then we're going to open up the vocal and make sure to switch it from resample to stretch. Next, we're just going to press this stretch mode over here and stretch out the whole vocal for the whole 8 bars. Now we can obviously turn this off and just adjust the sample a little bit so it fits even better. Once you stretch out the vocal, you also want to make sure to add some smooth effects. So the first thing we're going to add is just a sound shifter to pitch up the whole vocal. Then we obviously add a little bit of reverb. And lastly, since we pitched it up, we also want to cut out a lot of the high end from the vocal. With this, I've also just panned the vocal from left to right, and here's how it sounds. Yeah, so this is way smoother. Let's quickly go into the Mirage multi-kit and add a texture. Alright, so here we quickly have the whole sample. Now with the sample finished, let's quickly add some drums. As for the drum sounds I'm using, they are of course coming from my Mirage multi-kit. So if you guys like any of the drum sounds you hear in this video, you can obviously check out the kit. It is on my website, it is BBMarko.com, or you guys can just click the first link down below. Now with these type of beats, you just want to keep your drum bounce super simple. So we're going to start off with a long-lasting open hat. So let's drag in this one. And then we're also just going to add a super simple clap pattern. Copy that over. Next we have a basic hi-hat pattern as well. Just gonna copy that over and do a few changes. Yeah, just lowering some of the notes can make a huge difference. Now you have a pretty simple drum pattern going, but to really get that bounce, we want to make sure to add some more open hats, a few snares, and maybe some perks as well. Yeah, so just a slight bounce like this. Now I have also opened up this open hat right here, but I'm actually going to wait until I have the 808 and the kick down, because I want to layer this open hat with one of the 808 hits. So let's quickly switch over to the 808 first, and we want to make sure to pick a short but hard hitting 808. With that 808 pattern, we are also just going to go in and layer a kick. Just so it hits extra hard. And that's fire. Pretty much it right there. Lastly, this time let's go back to that open hat I was talking about, and let's just layer it with the third 808 hit right here. So it's gonna hit exactly at the same time as the 808. And that's perfect. Copy that over. Oof. And here we have the full beat. So a couple textures with the guitar in the intro.
Shut up, Marko. Marko.
Then we have the second part of the intro right here. So pretty much the pre-hook with the bass. And it builds up into the hook. Here we have all the drums. And we have the second part with the vocals. That 808 is bouncy. Here we slow it a bit down. Bass comes in with the kick for the first part of the verse right here. .808 is back. Same with the vocals. This is crazy. Bit of a unique part. Builds nicely back up.